Minnesota Timberwolves. You know what? Interesting club. They've got a top talent in Karl Anthony Towns, but it feels like they landed Jarrett Culver, and I was fine with that. But otherwise, it feels like this is a team that just isn't quite where they should be, given that they're building a team around Towns.
Yeah, a little stuck in the mud is how I think about the Wolves. They Culver, we'll see. They made that move up to go get him, and I'm okay with that because it sounds like they didn't have any interest in paying Dario Saric a new contract. So and then obviously the draft pick benefited them moving up. So that's okay. And then beyond that though, they didn't do a whole heck of a lot. They added Noah Vonleh, who I actually really like. I think is going to be really good for them. I wouldn't be surprised.
At $1.6 million, that's a good deal.
Yeah, exactly. So I wouldn't be surprised. I think he's going to end up right around 2. But we'll see where that comes in at. But it's with Vonleh, I think he is going to end up being their starting 4 eventually alongside Towns. If not, he's going to be their backup 4 or 5 there. And he's better than anything that they've had in that role recently, and that's no knock on Taj Gibson, but I think Vonleh really showed last year he was pretty good. Jake Layman, interesting kind of contract there, about $10 million or so over 3 years, or $11 million, I guess it was. We'll see where that works out. Jordan Bell, that was more just kind of taking advantage of his situation with the Warriors.
Right.
And then they picked up a couple guys on non-guarantees, and then they claimed Ty Wallace off of waivers, who I think is already the best backup point guard on their roster, as they lost Ty Jones. So there's just not a lot here. I think it's kind of Gerson Rosas and crew are going to let this thing clean itself out a little bit, and it wouldn't be surprised if you start seeing them cycle guys in and around those guys. I think they're probably I haven't done a full look at who I think will be playoff teams and who won't be. That's one of my goals for my plane ride home is to really sit down and think about that. But it is I like the Wolves roster, but I feel like they're probably middle of the pack in the West at best, which probably means they're probably on. If you're middle in the pack in the West at best, you're probably on the outside of the playoffs.
Yeah, I agree with that. There were rumors that they were, very much in the mix for D'Angelo Russell, and that they believed they had a way to get to max cap space. Now, most likely that would mean moving like Jeff Teague or some players like that. But there was some talk about they may have found a way to get off the Andrew Wiggins contract, which is obviously a massive deal for a guy that hasn't been living up to it. Do you think that's realistic? I mean, how much would they have to pay to move that Andrew Wiggins contract at this point?
Yeah, that's one. What was funny was I talked to at least 8 different teams now this was all going on like 29th and the 30th of June. So this is 2 weeks ago. And when I talked to those teams, they were like, who is it? And I was like, I don't know, is it not you? And they're like, it's not us. So no one knew. There was a lot of, again, people think, oh, Phoenix is dumb. They do dumb stuff. A lot of people thought it might have been Phoenix, but Phoenix was insistent it wasn't them. So I don't know. He's owed $122 million over the next 4 years. Now they're saying the right things, that they think that there's something there. And I don't hate on Andrew Wiggins the way a lot of other people do, because I think there is still value to be found and gained in shooting the basketball and being able to score. And Wiggins can score. This is a guy who can put up 20 points per game, and it's it has gotten to this point a little crazy to me. How much hate the guy gets. But that said, you're locked in on him and Towns for the next 4 seasons, and then Towns has one more beyond it. But just for the two of them combined, $245 million. So that is, there it is. You're going to have to figure it out. Either Wiggins needs to step forward and go, with that. But as far as Russell goes, they thought, they could move. My guess is it was going to be Teague and Jang. We're going to go somewhere. Versus Wiggins. That was just my guess. And then you retool around Towns, Wiggins, and Russell. Towns obviously thought they had Russell. I think Russell thought that's where he was going. And then, obviously the whole Warriors situation came up, and, full max deal, no other moves needed to be made because of the way they worked the double sign and trade with Kevin Durant. So, it's for Minnesota, I just feel like it's just going to be another lost season.
Yeah, you know what? I don't hate Wiggins either. I think that he's an NBA player. It's the contract, right? And there's a lot of guys who just the contract is more than you would want to be paying him based on what he's producing. So yeah.
But he promised he'd work hard.
Yeah, exactly.
The whole thing. Like, that's just crazy. Yeah.